All right. Should we start? Is this how this goes?
I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, I guess it says we've been going live for like 8 seconds.
8 seconds.
But it says it's waiting for us. Well, let's go. Hi.
Hi. I'm Nick.
I'm Jill.
And we're Hipstrings. Wow, we can still do that after all this time. Welcome back. Let's not talk about how much time it's been, shall we?
So we've got a new setup for doing podcasting, and we're trying to make it easier on us by we'll do a live stream and then we'll leave it up as a regular episode.
Yeah, that way we can get things out. I don't have to worry about editing stuff. We may end up saying terrible and stupid things, at which point I'll have to figure out how to edit on the fly, but
we'll try to behave ourselves.
Yeah. So it is February 27th, 2020, and we are not sick of coronavirus.
No.
We're perfectly healthy. How are you? We just, not just, but relatively recently came back from visiting Disney World. Hence the,
Star Wars everything.
All the Star Wars everything, including the title of the podcast. So, for those of you that aren't aware and aren't big nerds like we are, there is a place called Galaxy's Edge, which is the Star Wars land that Disney has created. And we went a little bit nuts, as can be seen by our wonderful sweaters that we knit for it. Yes, we knit sweaters for going to Disney World.
I think this has to be our thing. It's not the first time we've knit sweaters for a trip.
That's true. That's true.
It won't be the last.
First time was Rhinebeck, right? Was that the first time?
I think so.
Yeah, where we did the
all the Crazy Hearts.
Crazy Hearts, yeah. And so this one, what was the name of the pattern that we did?
It was Strange Brew by Tin Can Knits, which is more of a recipe for knitting a colorwork yoke sweater. And I have to say, of the various colorwork sweaters yoke sweaters I've done, I like the fit of this the best.
Yeah, I was actually really nervous doing it personally, because I've never had a sweater that I've really felt like, yeah, this fits perfectly. Even ones where I worked hard to try and get the right fit. This one, I would maybe just get a little bit of extra slimming on the bottom part, but for the most part, this actually fits really, really nicely. Yeah. Never mind the fact that I went with the women's medium sizing.
No, it's a women's large.
Was it women's large? Okay.
Yeah, because we're both knitting the same size.
Still, not the men's size. Just
okay. It's the same stitch counts for the men's like medium and the women's large.
Is it?
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Different lengths for the arms and the torso, and I told you to follow the men's.
I completely ignored the arm length. No, I didn't. I followed it for one of them, I think.
I told you to follow the men's once you got past the yoke.
I don't know. It worked out well, whatever I did.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about that pattern, and that, as Jill calls it, a recipe, is that it tells you, okay, you can do whatever you want for the yoke. And so we found, for the size we were doing, the number of stitches, and then we charted out what we wanted to do for the yoke. Yeah. So do you want to talk about your pattern first?
Well, we both have the first same section. Oh, so there's 3 sections in the yoke. And the first one for both of us says in Galactic Standard, Batu or Bust.
Yeah. So
and Batu it's repeated on the back.
Batu is the name of the
planet
that Galaxy's Edge is on. Black Spire Outpost is the city. I'm getting probably way too nerdy for all this, but it's extremely nerdy because it's these weird characters that say Batu or Bust. And so, incidentally, our kids wanted us to make them sweaters when we had about 2 weeks before we were going to go.
Yeah, I finished mine about 2 weeks early, and they were like, I want a sweater. And I was like, that's not happening.
So we did something else, but we'll get to that later. Yeah. But in the meantime, we made them T-shirts that say Batu or Bust, which they greatly enjoy. And actually, our daughter wore to school today.
Yeah.
I needed to ask her about how that response went. So, okay. Now do you want to talk about
your... And then my second is the AT-ATs being tripped up by the snow speeders. And then my last one is a very customized Tauntauns in the snow.
With some snow speeders.
With some snow speeders.
Yeah. So, and I don't do anything simple.
It's an understatement.
So, I made a chart which looked beautiful in Excel. And I didn't really realize that I had like 60 stitch floats in some cases. So that wasn't fun. But it worked out, as you could see. So I actually have different patterns on the front and the back. So my first row first section, as Jill mentioned, is the same as hers. The second section is alternating different ships. So you've got, let me see if I can see here, you've got a TIE Bomber, a Y-Wing, TIE Fighter, A-Wing, TIE Advanced, and a B-Wing on here. And then that actually repeats on the back. And then the third section here is basically on the front, I've got the battle from Star Wars Episode 4, right? So I've got the Death Star and all the TIE Fighters coming out of it with Darth Vader's TIE Fighter here. Are you like rolling your eyes here? Then I've got X-Wings coming out of the pyramid. But what you really should be rolling your eyes at is the fact that I did something different on the back. And I can't see what I'm doing, but
yeah, so...
Oh, go ahead.
Star Destroyer. Oh, gosh.
Tantive?
Taviv. The transport for the...
Oh, that's the Tantive. What's the other one?
No, the shuttle.
Oh, the Tidarium shuttle, yeah.
Tidarium shuttle.
Yeah.
And then the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah. So, yeah, we had lots of fun with this. We got 0 comments on it when we wore it
at Disney.
Which
was for a very short amount of time because it was in the 80s most of the time that we were there.
It was supposed to be cold. We went in February because it was supposed to at least be reasonably cold, and that's why we got a sweater for it. But
we made it through being there for Open for Hollywood Studios and through getting to ride Rise of the Resistance. So, which fortunately we got an early boarding group. So we were done by like 9:30.
Yeah, and then immediately afterwards we took off the sweaters. Did you ever post onto the Instagram the photo we took with the family there? Yeah, so if you look at Jill's Instagram, Hipstrings, then you'll see the photo of us with their sleeves rolled up, wearing shorts with the sweaters, as well as our kids. So maybe you want to show what we did for our kids.
So what our kids wanted was originally like great works of art. And I said, no, you're getting a 2-color hat and it has to be a repeating pattern. So one
child, you did the other one.
Yes. Because one child wanted something very complicated. So I started out by making a lightsaber hat. So it's based off of Luke's lightsaber hilt. And then little green.
So it's more like a light dagger at that point.
Light dagger, yeah.
Light toothpick.
I was beyond caring at this point.
Yeah.
But this is for our littlest.
And he loves it. And then our oldest wanted porgs.
So Nick made a tessellating porg design.
And if anybody's interested in any of these patterns, let us know. We can post them online.
Yeah, I've been meaning to put up the full projects on Ravelry, and I'll put up our charts. And if you happen to be our size and get yourself a copy of Strange Brew, you can make your own.
That is true. Yeah, I would recommend adding a couple more explosions and things
to break up the floats.
To break up the floats.
But all of this was knit with Hipstrings Polwork DK.
Yeah, and I was actually really surprised at how soft this washed up.
It's the first garment I've made for myself out of Polwork DK. Yeah. I'm really impressed with it. Yeah. It's really, really.
You made other projects, but this is the first full garment, right?
No, this is the first project I've made really for my own use. There's a sample in the shop, but I've never really worn it.
I never worked with it, and I have excuse for that.
Yeah.
And it was nice and fluffy, really tough, or not tough, but it wasn't hard to work with. right? It wasn't fuzzy or linty or anything
And it bloomed
when I was
a lot when
knitting,
washed.
and then when washed, it bloomed and got really fluffy and warm and all around nice. I really really like it. So this is now my favorite sweater. It's been knit for what 3 weeks now. I think I've already
Maybe.
worn it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So no more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah, that's enough of that.
So
I
that's
guess.
knitting in Star Wars.
So yeah, we had a great time. If anybody likes Star Wars, I highly recommend if you're gonna go to Disney, spend some time there. We planned for half a day, and at Galaxy's Edge, we ended up spending a day and a half.
Yeah, we went to Hollywood Studios, and the first day we just spent in Galaxy's Edge and like the entrance. And then besides like you guys taking a jaunt to do the Tower of Terror, we spent our entire time in Batuu. And the kids were like, there's another part of the park. They were not interested. We dragged them to it.
The best part was the second day.
On the second day.
The second day we went back to Batuu and spent half a day there. And then we're like, okay, we have to at least see the rest of the park. So we went and walked through the rest of the park and went right back to Batuu.
Yeah.
So it's definitely was fun. Definitely was worth the time. Even though there's not, there's only 2 rides.
Well, plus Star Tours.
Well, yeah, but that's not in Batuu.
Yeah, it's not technically in Batuu.
In Batuu, there's only 2 rides.
Right.
There's still plenty to do, especially if you enjoy the experience. So, anyways, this is a knitting and spinning podcast. Maybe we should
other
talk
things
about
other
that
besides
stuff.
Star Wars.
Last we were on YouTube.
Was all during the base 12 spin along.
So we finished our base 12, and then we took a pause on all our other projects to do these sweaters. But one of the things that we had planned was to make
I get to knit now.
Yes, matching night shift cowls with our base 12s. So this is my progress. As you can see, it's not a beautiful cake because I did knit quite a bit and then realized I was working with kind of 2 small needles for how thin of a yarn we're doing and how drapey I want it to be. So I took the painful decision. I think this is the first time I've really gone and done it myself to say.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, it hurts. To say, I need to do this again. I need to start over. It hurts, but it was the right decision because hold up, stop knitting so that you can actually show this off. Right. So this is what Jill's doing. Right.
So I knit mine in order and I chain plied. Yeah. So I have solid blocks of the base 12. The gray is a yarn with a similar wraps per inch that is from a fleece that I picked up at Maryland and I had spun into yarn. So yeah. Nick's using the same light gray as his contrast, but he has a random barber pulled skein of the base 12.
So, and maybe since this is the YouTubes and there are people out there, how drastically different the colors come up, it's a little bit too plain. I'm kind of thinking that this should be the main color and then this should be the contrast. So it's just going to have little pops of gray. So I'm going to leave it up to the audience here. And now that I get to redo it, let me know what you think. Let us comment or message us on Instagram or something and let me know. Do you think I should start off with this is the main color where it's going to be very different? Or should I try and sort of copy what Jill's doing and then you can see the difference between the random spin result? So there's that. I need to restart and I'd completely not pay attention to the podcast, so I'm not going to knit right now.
And I've got a tangle right now.
So. While you're working on your tangle, I'm gonna talk about my other project. I'm going to come off as such a big nerd here, aren't I?
There are times when you don't.
So, in addition to sci-fi, Star Wars stuff, I play video games. There's a video game called Pokemon. I don't know if you've heard of it. Um, and the latest installment, Pokemon Sword and Shield, is something really caught me. That the character, when you start off, your mother reminds you to wear your hat, and it is described as a knit hat. And I just became enamored. It's this ridiculous looking hat because it's like a normal hat shape, but then it has this like puff that comes up off the top, and it's not a pom pom. It's like literally just a sort of pyramid triangle thing that comes up and sticks out of the back of the head. And I thought, wow, that is so remarkably fantastical. Some protocols, procedures, let's say. So it's really a stretch for them to call it a knit hat, but in the game, it's a knit hat. So I'm knitting a hat. So this is the pattern that I have sort of interpreted. Unfortunately, this is probably a little bit too small for me as I've been working on it. This is a pattern I'm designing right now. And so I'm going to have to increase a couple of the stitch counts to make it adult size, but this will be this will probably end up going to one of our boys who are also very much into Pokemon. This, I'm just at the point where I'm starting to increase again, so it's going to be probably about that much taller and have this weird zigzag cross section to it. Also, the one in the game starts off with a very different color. This is just waste yarn that I had lying around, so I was using that as a base, for prototyping. The final one I'm going to make is actually gray with a red band around the head. So it's really cute. Oddly enough, there's not many pictures of it on the internet. So I'm going to have to see if I can do some sort of screen cap and show people. I don't know why, but I've gotten really obsessed about this hat to the point where I'm playing the game. One of the things you can do is you can change your hairstyle. And I changed my hairstyle and it wouldn't let me wear a hat with a different hairstyle. And I'm like, no. I got to go back. I have to wear the hat. So even though the hairstyle that allows you to wear the hat is super dorky, it looks good with the hat on. So I went back to that. Okay, I'm done. And then you have another project you're working on, right?
I have many.
Well, which one would you like to talk about according to what's written down on the page here?
Well, I meant to grab something, and then you locked me behind this table, so I can't grab the thing that I was going to show off.
Draw a picture with your words.
So I just finished winding a warp. I haven't had anything on the loom for a while. This is going to be for some hand-woven bath towels, more like bath sheets. And so what I did was I raided my stash and got out a whole bunch of cones of 8/4, and I was winding 3 at a time, and then winding bouts of about 100 strands, and then for the next 100 I would change up which 3 colors I was using. So it's kind of like a fade, and I'll do some color mixing when I'm dressing the loom. So
what are you going to do for the weft?
The weft, the plan is to probably some hand-spun cotton. And if I don't have enough hand-spun cotton, because the plan is to make 4 of these bath sheets, and they're about, I think I have to weave them almost 5 feet long.
Okay.
It's an over 9-yard warp. So if I run out of hand-spun, I've got like this cotton linen slub yarn that I picked up at the Mannings years and years ago. We're talking ancient stash.
So, tell me about this bath sheet concept, right? Because 5 feet long for a towel. Okay, that's more like a beach towel,
it's gonna
right?
shrink. Yes, it's like a big thing you can wrap yourself up in. So a couple years ago, I kind of got, upset with terry towels, and I bought these Cotton towels from Amazon, which are basically plain weave flat pieces of cloth. And Nick was very skeptical. But I was like, I love them. I started using them. They are still my preferred towel.
What we found is that I tend to absorb more water, and so drying myself off with them is more difficult for me than it is for you.
Yeah.
They're very nice and soft after a wash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really like using them. So, and they are fairly expensive. They're about $40 to $50 for a towel.
Ouch.
So, that's at the point where you're like, well, hand woven, hand spun isn't really that much more in material costs, and it's just going to take my time.
Yeah.
So it's not a ridiculous thing to make something that I will use on a daily basis, rather than making yet another accessory that goes in the pile of accessories that I have.
Yeah.
So my weaving is a little bit more utilitarian, even if it is still something that's very special, because it's hand woven and hand spun. So hopefully this weaving project will go well, because the last one had to be cut off the loom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to educate our listeners as to the learnings that you had and why you had to cut your last project off the loom?
So I was warping for a double weave blanket on my Louette David, and it was full width of my loom. And when I was beaming on, some of it got caught up in the ratchet and pawl on the back beam, because there's not a separation where you wind on and where that ratchet and pawl is. And so that kind of totally foobarred the tension.
Well, there was some problem with that, but there was also the problem that the warp that you were using was a little bit too thick for the heddle. Is it?
No. It was really dense, because double weave is double thickness.
Yeah.
And so there was just a lot of yarn crammed in there. And so then when I was trying to pull it off so I could rebeam, then I was having trouble getting it through the heddles, because it was hand spun. There was a whole bunch of optimism built into that project. And it all came crashing down.
Yeah.
So this should be a little bit more simple. It's going to go on your Shack standard, so big wide loom. So I'm not doing any double weave. It's just going to be a 4 harness, simple pattern. It should go pretty smoothly. And I went with using 8/4 cotton for the warp instead of 8/2. So I have half as many ends to deal with in the warp. So it shouldn't be that much pain in the butt.
Good. So what we also usually talk about is new stuff in studio. If we're all done with whips and FOs, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to talk anything about what's new in the studio?
More just getting back to a new normal with all my health stuff. So my back is back in shape, but my foot isn't, which was what started all this problem in the first place. So I'm still having some reduced time at the studio, which means I'm spending more time doing other things. Still business related, but not standing and doing things like dyeing.
But you do have a new blend in.
I have a new since the last time we talked, I have 2 new blends in, which are both Sari Silk, kind of tweedy blend. One is called Selkie. It's a light gray with this bright turquoise silk in it. And then the one that arrived just this week that I'm sampling, it's not on the website yet. Selkie is. It's modeled after the Midnight Tweed from the Base 12 Spin Along. So I've been spinning it up today. It does look a lot like this tweedy black.
So the Midnight Tweed was
a hand carded bag.
Hand carded, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's not hand carded, but
it's a mill blend. It's a different fiber mix. So the mill blend is merino, Shetland, and silk.
Yeah. But it has a very, very similar look, both in the roving and in the final spot.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm prepping for my first show of the year, which is for the Love of Fiber in State College, which is in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's State College is a great place to visit. If you're anywhere in Pennsylvania, State College. I always say you draw an X in the state, and right at that, that middle point, that's where state college is. So if you're anywhere in Pennsylvania or north or south of the center part, it's actually probably a decent little trip. For us, it's only about a 2-hour drive or something. Yeah. And it's the show's pretty nice. We like it a lot. There's a lot of new vendors compared to what they were last year, which means a lot of our good friends and vendors from previous years are not there. But mixing up is good. So
yeah. And then after that, and then I'm starting to prep for Flyaway, which is in mid-April in Kansas City. So
Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Some people don't know.
Yeah.
And when is that again? Sorry?
Mid-April.
Mid-April. Yeah. So
So I'm a little bit lighter on shows this year, which is a good thing. I'm down 2 shows this year. That was planned.
Down one of the shows that's down was Indie.
Yes.
Right. We, I'll take this as a point to apologize in person to everyone, or through the internet to everyone with my face, that we did not have an early year Indie Knit and Spin. We were having difficulties with getting a date with reasonable time and reasonable pricing with our current venue. We are just about finalized with the plans for the late year, the fall Indie Knit and Spin. So hold tight. We don't have anything we can talk about yet. We like to make sure we've got the contract in hand and everything is finalized.
It should be all good.
But we are within a week or two of announcing. So keep an eye on the website. Keep an eye on our posts, and we should be getting you guys information soon. Anything else you want to talk about?
No.
No?
It's a good little transition back into the swing of things.
So we actually are already having some comments. Maybe now we can get to comment time. So Reiner Girl has welcomed us back. Thank you very much. And she is suggesting, don't copy Jill. Use it as the main color. See, that's what I was saying.
Then do it.
I'm gonna be flamboyant. Stephen West is apparently my idol now. I'm gonna go for it. That's the only vote we have right now. So you've got maybe.
Well, and your own vote.
And my own vote, yeah. No, my vote.
Your
doesn't
opinion
matter.
matters.
No, it does.
Yes, it does.
Great. Well, this has been fantastic. I'm really glad we're doing this again. We did about half an hour, which is good.
Yeah. Let us know what you think of the new setup. We got a better camera, so hopefully the video is a little bit better quality than it has been in the past.
And now that I don't have the anxiety of editing and finding music and putting the subtitles and making dad jokes. Oh, I need to have a dad joke for the end.
Yeah, think of one while I talk about our social media.
Okay.
So, you can find us the rest of the time when we're not on YouTube. Lots of places. You can find me as Hipstrings on Facebook, Instagram, and Ravelry. You can find Nick as at Mr. Hipstrings on Instagram.
That's really the only one that I look at, so I'm bad at social media. You guys should know this by now.
So, have you thought of your dad joke?
So, keeping in the theme of Star Wars, do you know what the temperature inside a tauntaun is?
Lukewarm.
Yeah. And if you didn't get that, you guys need to watch episode 5 again. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Good night, guys.